Check, check. Let's see. Is that better? Sometimes this mic gets staticky. Let me check my stream quality here and see what's going on your end. Yeah, it's one of those days, everybody. Nothing's working. Bear with me for 1 second here while I multitask. Yeah, so I was like, you know what, I'm just going to postpone this. Okay, I think we're better now. Okay, sometimes this mic gets a little wacky. So let's go back into the Amazon stream now. Hang on. Okay. So that should be better for Amazon and for all of you. Okay. 5.9. Everybody's 5.9? 5 by 5? We're back. Okay, much better. Good. So I'm not sure what the heck happened there. So in any event, I'm updating all of these, and I tried to get them as updated as possible before I started here. So we're going to let this finish. The cumulative update is coming down. So what I've got here is all of them switchable, more or less, on my switching box here. And I've extensively reviewed the GMK tech here already, but I did want to show you one neat thing I did to it. So if you can all hear me now, I think you can. There we go. All right, so I'm going to crack open the top of this one while it's running, which is probably not advised. But what I did on the GMK tech, and if you watch my recent Plex video, you can see what I did. So I now have 2 hard drives in here. So this thing is like super upgradable. And if you were thinking about buying like a Raspberry Pi, I think this little guy, like this is my favorite mini PC in quite some time. Partly because it performs well, like really well for its price point. It is super inexpensive. So right now on Amazon, this is $135 with, I think, 8 gigs of RAM. This one's got 16, but you can easily just swap the RAM out. Single channel. But on these N100s, it's not as important as it used to be. So you can hear me as long as I don't smack the mic. Okay, so I'm not going to touch the mic any longer. Yeah, I was just adjusting it. I think it's on its last legs. This mic has served me well over the years, but is approaching its end of life. And sometimes what happens is the capsule gets loose and it gets really staticky. So I may have to go in there and clean it. Let me just load up my vMix social so I can bring you all into the chat here. Yeah, so this is, I spent like an hour trying to get everything set up, and I'm like, is this going to work? And then I was like, all right, let's just go for it. And look what happens. What do they call that? Get there-itis? That's what I've got. Stream there-itis. All right, so let me pull up our YouTube thing here. And there we go. All right, so I am not going to touch the mic, and I think we should be good. If I start crackling, let me know. And Chris Allegretta's here. And yeah, that's, I think it's one of those bad tech days. So let me get back to what I was talking about here. So what I did with this GMK tech, the G3, is it has an NVMe slot here, which is its main drive, and this has got a terabyte drive. And then this one here is an M-SATA drive. So what I can do is dual boot. So let me show you. I actually have Ubuntu on this right now. So right now we're in Windows, right? So what I can do here is go over here to the Start menu, and we'll do a restart. And watch what happens when I restart. Keep an eye on it here. Okay. Let's restart anyhow. And Monty's pointing out that, yeah, you know, and I bet you that Intel could make these like even faster for the price point, but they don't because they don't want to eat into their more profitable chips, right? If you're willing to pay more money for the other stuff. So check this out. So I've got an option here to, and I'll pull it up on screen here. So I have an option here to boot into Windows, or I can boot Ubuntu. Look at that. And this runs Ubuntu just as good as Windows, if not better. So it's decent. And here we are. So let me just pop into the screen here. And so this is what we were running, and it's still running right now. That Plex video I just did was running on here because if you run a Plex server, if you're doing a lot of 4K stuff and you have a Plex server running on Windows, you can't do the HDR to SDR color mapping thing. So my forehead was a little shiny. So tone mapping works in hardware on Linux, and this supports it. So as we demonstrated in that video, this thing's a great Plex server. Better if you have it in Linux, just because it can do a little bit more in hardware. So it's good stuff. All right, so now let's take a look and see how these other computers are doing. So Windows Update on this one is still going, so we'll let that one do its thing. And the switch box that I had acquired for this effort does not work. So I'm having to manually sneaker net it here. But let's see if this one is up to par here. Yeah, it looks like this one's ready to go. So this is the GMK Tech with an N95 chip. So this is a little slower than this one. It's not upgradable. It's just a little PC in a box. But if you needed something tiny, it's kind of useful for that. Let me just check and see how the updates are going on that. So right now we're looking at this one here. And let's just do a Windows Update look here. And then we'll kind of run it through its paces. So it's still downloading. And it's got some... all right, let's just get the display driver updated and we'll deal with the other stuff. So that one's going there. So while that's going, let me show you what happens with this one. So now, PC number 4 on the table is this guy here. And this is that Minisforum PC. And watch this. I'm going to plug my Ethernet in. And that's all I need to boot it up. So I'll switch to our... That's it. It's powered by the Ethernet cable. Isn't that wild? But the performance on this thing is terrible. I'll show you what I mean in a minute. So we'll let this boot up. And I tried, like, initially I thought it was overheating. I tried putting it in different orientations, but it's designed to sit flat because the fan is outputting up through the top. So this one I've been playing with a bit, so it's already up to date, so I can just log into it and go to town here. So let me show you. So it struggles a lot. Like it, in particular, it's kind of designed as like a kiosk thing, and it doesn't do very well at it. And while this is loading, let me check the other one. So this is, number 3 is this one. Number 2 is this one, which is ready for restart. So let me plug this in. Yes, I know I could use a switch box. The one that I acquired for this project today doesn't work. So we are going to move the dongle from one to the next here today. All right, more updates. See what happens when you buy these things? And they're not very fast, so they take forever. All right, so here we go. So we got another one we can look at. So PoE is cool, but if we load up, let's see, I think I have Chrome on this one. Here it is, yeah. If I load up Chrome, and even in my benchmarks, this does not perform very well. So, for example, I will run the browser bench speedometer test on here. And as a means of comparison, let's go and look at and hopefully the mic sounds okay now. We're not getting any static any longer. All right, I'm just pulling up the list here. So on this test, we should get a score from anywhere from like 6.4 to 9, okay? So let's run it. And again, we're powering right now by the PoE, the power over Ethernet. So right now this computer is being powered completely by its network connection. And it claims to have a 2.5 gigabit Ethernet adapter, but it doesn't perform at its full potential there either, unless you have the full power plugged into it. So yeah, so this one, the CPU runs slower when it's plugged into PoE. I mean, it works, and maybe there's like a kiosk use case in that scenario, right? But for general usage, you're losing a lot of performance. So we'll let this finish its run here, and we'll get a score. But this should come in at like around 7 to 9, and I think we're going to be a lot lower than that. Because this has an N100, but like I said, when it's running in this mode, it runs slower. This is a neat test because they've recently updated it to be more real world. So as you can see, it's like running through a bunch of different web scenarios, kind of replicating your standard workflow, that sort of thing. And while that's running, let's check on the other ones. Okay, that one's... This is why I set up a bunch of them, because one of them is bound to be updated. Yeah, so it comes in about half of where it should be. So for example, if we run it on the GMK Tech here, we have to reboot it, we would get a score around 9 or so. So let me reboot it real quick here, and we'll take a look and see. So let's go restart. I got to turn it off completely. I got to power it down here. For whatever reason, it wouldn't turn off when I selected the power thing. Maybe because I'm not logged in. That might be why. Power off. All right, let me log in real quick and see if it'll give me something different here. And once these other two boot up, we'll do a little more with it. All right, restart. There we go. And we'll go back into Windows here. And we'll see what we get. Oh yeah, PoE is super useful, for sure. And in fairness, the way they market this one is as a kiosk computer for people that, for businesses that have like a running kiosk or something. So you don't have to run additional power out to it, right? You could just run the Ethernet. Good for hackers. You can install it in a drop ceiling and you've got yourself a computer that's powered and on the network too, right? All right, so we're going to reboot here. Yeah, so I think it's got its purpose, but it's not great. So, and again, this is just for reference. I'll show you in a second. Like I said, my switch box did not work properly. So we're essentially sneaker netting all the way through here. But what I'll do on this one has the same exact processor as this one, okay? And it just feels quicker. And we've done all sorts of stuff on this already, but I think it's really a lot faster. Okay, so now we're going to start the same test. Here, I'll go full screen just like I did on the other one. Let's make sure we're, doing apples to apples here. And you'll see a very different performance level. In fact, you will likely see that this one is faster. And while that's going, let's check on the other one here. It's still updating. It might be done by the time half of these are done updating. We see how much faster it is already? Like this is the difference. Now, if I plug this one into power, normally it runs pretty much as fast as this. So it's just running at a lower, it's just not drawing as much power through the PoE. And I think that makes a difference here. Hey everybody, Grand Admiral Thrawn is here. Hope you're doing well in the unknown regions. Yeah, look at that. So same processor, 10.8 versus in fact, I'm going to update my chart here with that new score. 10.8 versus 4.8. So this one is 10.8, 4.8. Hey, D. Johnson is here. Splat Dragon is here too. And you know what? I don't think it draws anywhere near that. If I check my Unify router, which I will do right now, or Unify switch, it looks like it's only drawing like 12 or 13 watts. Although these computers don't draw much to begin with, because they are super low powered. And let's see how our updates are going here. All right, this one, number 2, this one is back up. So we will take a look at that one in a second. Let me go and look at what the power draw is on this right now. So if I go to devices, PoE. Okay, so this Minisforum is drawing only 8.6 watts off of my system right now. And I would imagine it might do a little bit more. Here, we'll go to my YouTube channel. Let's see if it draws more. I'm monitoring the power in real time on the... but even that, doesn't that seem slow? And it's connected to Ethernet, right? So it's just running much lower than it should. And it's because it doesn't draw that much power off of the PoE. And I've got it plugged into, my Unify supports all the latest standards, right? So it should be better than this. So if we pull up my latest video here, for example, it's just slow. Now, like I said, if I plug it into regular power, it's a lot quicker. So, but what's interesting again is that if you plug it into a docking station, also the same issue. So I think they've just powered it lower at that level. All right, so let's jump over to the Melee now, because now we have a baseline, right? So we're going to start on the Melee. And yeah, we've covered this here. So I do test all of these for the malware. So I have done that, and I have found that most of them, I use like the Minisforum PCs are good. The GMK techs have been fine also. But I run a number of malware scans, and I usually do that I always do it before every review. So that will be part of the repertoire, which we will cover in a little bit. All right, so now we are on the Melee here. And let's check its Windows Update status, just to see what's going on here. Windows Update. It's on the wrong time zone, but we will adjust that. All right, so it's looking for the latest thing here. I'm going to skip that for now, just so we can get our baseline down, because the video driver was updated, so I think we're good there. So the first thing we're going to do is boot up Microsoft Edge for the only time that I will boot it at, and see where it goes. Yeah, I've tested them all extensively. And everything comes from China, you're right. I mean, it's like even the Lenovo's are from China, Dell's are from China, Apple's are from China. So all of those tend to be in the same boat. But yeah, no, I do check them all. And I did find, like, for example, I had an Ace Magic PC that didn't have the malware, but it also didn't let me install Microsoft Defender. So let's see, Google Chrome. I love how Microsoft and Google battle it out here. Microsoft Edge runs on the same technology. So we had a pop-up when I went to Google, and we had a pop-up trying to look at this, they even like insert themselves. Like, this is what's crazy, is that I'm on Google's website, and Microsoft is dropping banner ads on top. Like, they're basically intercepting the HTML code before it comes to me. Like, is it really that important? Let the user decide. Generally, I run the Brave browser because it has some really good built-in ad blocking, and it is pretty much the same as Chrome otherwise. And yeah, you could stream Overwatch on these. But yeah, so from what I understand, and I did reach out to Minisforum about this, and they said that they do, that it does in fact, they don't, it was funny, I forgot what their response was, but it was like, that's not the primary power option, like you should plug it in, is basically what they told me. But they don't indicate that in their marketing that it runs slower if you plug it into PoE. All right, so now we are testing the Minisforum PC here, or at the Minisforum. This is the Melee. Now this one, let's see if I can give you my overhead view here. This one is completely fanless, so it's going to get warm on the outside. That's just how it works. And now we have our baseline, right? So we have, oh, it's blank, but you know what I'm talking about here. So we got a 10 on that browser bench test before. So now on this one, we'll go back to browserbench.org, and we'll go back to speedometer, and we'll run the test again and see what we get. And again, this one is an N100, just like this one and that one, and the one behind me. And let's see what we get. Yes, the little mini PCs are great. I love them. Yes, and that's another thing. All of these machines that I'm testing here do bypass that forced account thing. And I think it's based on how they're buying their Windows licenses. These come with Windows 11 Pro licenses, believe it or not. All right, this one's still downloading updates. So this laptop here is a Chuwi. This is actually the nicest thing I've seen Chuwi put out. It doesn't feel spectacular, but I've got this linked in the video description also. This one is $360, but it's a 2-in-1 with a touch screen, and the display actually looks decent on it. It's not bad. I don't know how long it'll last for, but it doesn't feel compromised as some of their other ones have felt. It's called the Freebook. So here you go. Actually, this one did pretty well. So 11.9 versus 10. And there is a bit of a margin of error to these things. So it's not like this is the end-all be-all score, but still it's a pretty good score. You know, they usually come in around 9 or 10, right? So this one's coming in at 11.9, which is good. And what we'll do also, because I have my other drive here, is we will get Steam installed on this sucker, and we'll run a benchmark. And this is a completely fanless computer. So again, we're looking at this guy here. This is completely fanless, completely silent. And it's, so far, on that first test, did pretty good. And this is they call this one if you're watching on Amazon, I've got this up here, the Melee Fanless PC Stick. Let's see, this one is the Melee. I'll click over to it so I can find the right one here. They call it the Melee Fanless PC Stick N100. It has another part number, though. Let's see. Melee PC G02 Pro. So I'm storing that into my document here so I can keep it straight. Okay. So we're going to grab Steam and install that real quick. And I have a drive with a bunch of Steam stuff preloaded, so I don't have to go through the rigmarole of having to install everything, although here it is. So we're just going to plug this guy right in. And conveniently, this one has a USB-C port on the front of it, too. You just pop it in like that. And what I'm trying to determine here is like which one should I review next is kind of what we're going for here. So we will get Steam going here. So let's check the downloads. Yeah, yeah. Now, Grand Admiral Thrawn, when you hear Chewbacca, does that cause a bit of a reaction to you? Because I know, he's one of the head rebels, right? And you were very much an Empire guy. So, does it bring up any feelings? You could tell us. So Chris Allegretta has a Chuwi laptop. The screen cracked since I'm so careless. Hopefully he'll buy another one someday. Yeah, if you get one that works, they generally, all these things, they run forever. I've got a bunch of mini PCs that are still in service. In fact, in my old job, I've got like this fanless bricks PC. Gosh, that thing's got to be running on 7 or 8 years at my old job. It's still running the main switchboard in the front office from last time I checked. So those things can go a long time. So we're just going to install Steam here real quick. Yeah, they do all sorts of, Chuwi does all sorts of devices. If you click through on Amazon, you should see some of that. So I haven't tested Ubuntu on any of these yet except this GMK one. And it runs great on here. In fact, if you watch my more recent video, we did a Plex server on this running in Linux on Ubuntu. Runs great. And I would expect, because these are all of these computers, all of them are basically the same thing, because they're all like one chip devices. All right, I'm just going to log into my Steam account real quick here. Let me just take care of that. What I love about Steam is that you can log in now with the barcode. It makes it so much quicker. And we'll get the 3D Mark benchmark running on this one in a second here. And while that's logging in, why don't we go to PC number 3 here. And we'll run the test on, oh, this one's updating again. All right, we'll come back to it. They never stop updating. It's like, that's all they do is they update, update, update. I do think there's an economic cost to these updates happening at the worst possible times. So what we're going to do in the meantime here is, this really kills these little computers. So we're going to run the 3D Mark Time Spy test on here. And we're not looking for amazing performance, mind you, but we are looking for a score so we can compare it to some of the other ones. And this is where if heat becomes an issue, like that's where those things kind of come into play. And one little trick about Steam is that if you have external hard drives like this, you can basically move them around, point Steam at it, then you don't have to download the games again. They just come right up. So normally 3D Mark is like a multi-gigabyte download, but we don't have to go through that because it's already on the drive here. We just have to do the basic install. So that really helps. All right, give it 1 second here. Okay. And we'll let that do its thing here. Let's see how the updates are going. Still going. By the way, I am selling this ATEM switcher because I don't need 8 inputs. I'm only using 4 today. But we can jump around through different computers. So, so number 3 is this one. Number 2 is this one. Number 1 is the GMK Tech here, which is sleeping. And unfortunately, my USB switch box that I bought for this very project doesn't work. So I have to move the little dongle around. And Jim says, yeah, the updates take forever, especially on these low-cost machines. I have not seen the Chuwi mini book. I should probably get back into these things again. I had such a, some of them I saw from a quality perspective were so lousy that I was like, I'm not really digging it. But now they're like this one. I was surprised. This one feels a lot better. So it, of course, is still updating. And by the way, they often look better than they actually perform. But this one, this one looks as good to me as it does to you right now. Because generally, like in their product photos, they always look nice. Then you get them, and it's like, there's just something not right here. But this one feels nicer. I still think it's plastic. The top part is metal, but the rest of it is plastic. But it doesn't look, it always looked compromised before. This one feels a lot nicer. This is about $360. So I still have more to do with it just to kind of figure out what it's all about. But we will get there. And we're still waiting for 3D Mark to load up on the Melee. So right now we're looking at the Fanless Melee PC. And a couple of weeks ago, I looked at a Minix called the Z100 0DB, which was another fanless computer. That one was like a solid block of metal, and it performed great. And I'm eager to see if this one here performs the same way. What fell off? Looks like we lost this guy. And I ran the 3D Mark test on this already, so I'll show you the difference in performance. But it was weird because I had run all of my testing on this thing just on PoE, and then I was about to shoot the video, and I plugged it back in. I was like, let me run the test again and make sure something just wasn't off. Maybe there was an update or something. And when I ran it, I was like, wow, all of a sudden it's performing as it should with the processor that it has on board. And as it turns out, it was all power related. So if it uses less power when it's on PoE, which means it doesn't run as quickly. And it also uses less power if you plug it into a docking station. So it was surprising. I think it's like bugging me for a hardware survey. Okay, so here we go. And right now, the other guy is rebooting again, it looks like. So I'll let that run. Yeah, the trackpad's big on that thing, too. And yeah, in the reviews, I usually run like GeForce Now or the Xbox gaming thing. So I'll probably do that. A lot of times I'll do that while I am recording the review. So like the benchmarks and stuff I like to run right now as I'm getting things set up. And Frank says that in Linux Mint, you can enable automatic updates and even updates to kernel. Wow, in the background. How about that? I'm guessing it's got a reboot on one of those, right? Like it does like a 3 a.m. reboot or something. So there's not many games, as fast as these things are, as you will see, there are not many games that these can actually run, at least modern games. So it's possible to get like GTA 5 sort of running, but it's just not worth it. Here, why don't we run Wildlife first, just to get a benchmark here. And let's see. Let's go to options. I'm going to do... They have two versions of this. They also have the unlimited test, which, I guess they got rid of that. Because usually you can have it run like off screen, so it doesn't have to render everything on screen. Let me see if I can find what I did on the other one. Yeah, let me do the other one first. We're gonna run Time Spy first, just because I've got scores on the other ones there. So let's go back to benchmarks. By the way, if you go to Lon.TV/benchmarks, you can see my spreadsheet that I store all this data in as well. All right, so TimeSpy. I'm going to turn the demo off. Now, don't expect, like, we're going to be running at, like, super slow speeds here. But it's the score that matters. So be on the lookout for that. And I'm guessing this guy is still rebooting because there's nothing on the screen. And then our laptop is rebooting right now. We're 97% there on its updates, so that's good. But so far, I mean, at least from our initial test, oops, this one did pretty well. So let's see how it does on TimeSpy, and I'll give you the number the score that I got on the other one when this is finished up. And while this runs, why don't we bring this guy over and start our other stuff. Gosh, I kind of like this one. I mean, it's not, you know, the quality level here is not Apple, nor is it Dell or HP. But price-wise, it's better than I expected. And this is going to make a lot of people nervous. More of it is on this side of the desk than the other side. So this is the frame rate. So this would be the equivalent of like a 2016 AAA title. So you're not going to get much out of it. But what we're really after here is the score that we get at the end. So for example, this one, and actually all of the other N100s, come in at around 362 to 369 for its overall score. That includes the other guy, not when it's connected to the... You got to make sure that that other one is not connected to PoE. All right, so now I think this one is up to date. So let's take a look and see where we're at on updates here. And that one is still blank. I think it might just be waiting at the login screen. So I don't want to disturb this one now by moving the keyboard dongle. So we'll let that sit for a minute. Recipe Bob is here. Hello there. Yeah, I think I just need a bigger desk. One of these days I will figure it out. In the words, so I don't know if you all remember the sportscaster Warner Wolf, but he would say, if you had 8.9 on the TimeSpy test, you lost. It was 1. Who remembers Warner Wolf? Let me know in the comments. And it would be great to see some cheaper ARM Windows PCs. I'm hoping that this Snapdragon thing will drive more of it. And if you're just tuning in, I see a bunch of people are finding us on Amazon right now. We are currently testing the Melee here. And I am also about to start a similar round of tests here on this Chuwi budget laptop. And I will say its trackpad leaves something to be desired. It thinks I'm right-clicking. Let me turn off tap to click. I think that might be part of it. Touchpad settings. You can actually turn the touchpad off. And if you turn it off, you can't get it back on again. So don't do that. All right, I'm turning off tap to click. There we go. And we're going to download Chrome on here. Oops. So they are very aggressive in trying to keep you from running Chrome. All right, we got Chrome going on there. Shane is here. Woof, woof. And Amazon customer, thank you for the follow. Yeah, so I've looked at, I don't know if the algorithm being what it is, it doesn't put my videos in front of subscribers, but I have done now 2 reviews of 2 different Snapdragon ARM machines. I did prefer the Lenovo one to the HP one, but the compatibility issues are still there. That's kind of driving a lot of concern. So here's my picks right now. So still, like out of all the ones you're going to see, this one here, the GMK-Tech G3 with the N100 is still my favorite, just because it's upgradable, it performs excellent. It's a great device. You're not going to get much better than this one. But different form factors are what we're kind of exploring here. So we've got an N100 in a laptop. We've got a fanless one that is more compact, perhaps. It might work better behind a monitor or something like that. We got this little tiny guy here that we're going to look at next. And this one is has an N97 processor on board. If I get one in from Microsoft, I'll look at it, but budget-wise, it just doesn't make sense to buy them and review them. I won't get enough viewership to justify it. And I think that's exactly it, Splat. Because you know what Apple does is like, hey, they say to their users, like, hey, boys and girls, we're going to switch, and you're going to like it. And that's exactly what happens. And we all do it, right? It's like, okay. But you know what? Apple, I think what surprised me the most about the jump to M1, because I bought the M1 MacBook Air day 1, and I reviewed it week 1. Everything worked that I threw at it. Everything. Even if it wasn't designed for the M1, it ran, and it ran well. In the case of games, the games ran better on the M1 than they did on the Intel from the same computer, right? The MacBook Air with Intel did not perform as well as the M1 out of the same price point, right? The problem with Windows ARM is, you're right, is that the compatibility is what's holding them back. And so you end up in this situation where because it has to be such a backwards compatible thing, you get into that situation. I think that's exactly it. All right, I'm just going to adjust the display settings here. Just turn off the scaling, because I don't have scaling running on any of the other ones here, so we'll run this at 100%. The resolution on this is 2256 by 1504 on the laptop. It's actually pretty nice. And we'll talk about that result here in a second once I get the speedometer going on this guy. Okay, so the result that you see on screen here is exactly what it was on the other N100 based machines. So there's no performance penalty on here. What I will start on this one as we start pivoting to the other computers is I will run the stress test and see how well it handles itself under load for a 20-minute period. That'll be telling. Let me just jump back here real quick and update my number here. If you go to Lon.TV/benchmarks, you can see my spreadsheet. But so far, the performance on this one is exactly where I expected it to be. And we got 4.95 FPS on that one. Incidentally, our little laptop here on that same browser test, the browserbench.org test, came in right where I expected it to, 11.2. So we'll add that to the mix here on my spreadsheet. This is the Chuwi FreeBook N100. 11.2. Okay, making progress. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to run that 3D Mark Time Spy stress test, which is what I usually run. And this will run for about 20 minutes or so, and it will stress the computer out big time. So we will let that begin here. Let me pull out this thing before it yells at me. And now we'll see how the little box here does. So we'll plug that in, and we'll go back to, oh, it's still updating. All right, we'll let that finish up then. And we'll just watch paint dry on this one while we do that. All right. I've got about another half hour or so before I got a jet, so we'll see how much more we can get done in this span of time here. And what I will do also is we'll start downloading the 3D Mark test here too. Oops. But what I'm finding here with the Chuwi is that this will certainly not compete against more expensive laptops by any stretch. But what it will do is run as well as these mini PCs, but it's portable. And the display is much nicer than I expected on this thing. It actually looks really good. That's saying a lot for Chuwi. Thank you. I'm going to see if I can get this right. On Ice for the kind words. Yeah, I did a video last night just to kind of give everybody an update as to where we are at with stuff. You know, I'm still doing fine here, but it's not what it was a few years ago, you know, revenue-wise. But we're hanging in, so we'll see what happens. I think part of it is the algorithm, a good part of it. But more so, I think consumer habits are changing. So the types of things that people were interested in 8 years ago are different than what they are now. And I think what's happening here is that when you talk about tech products, most consumers aren't buying these things. They don't know about them. They don't, you know what I mean? Like they're just not even factoring them as an option. So who buys them? People that watch this channel on a regular basis, but people aren't searching for them. So when I review one of these things, they do really well up front, and then they tail off. But a Dell or a Lenovo or something will do poorly up front because most of the subscribers know about these things already, but over time they do a little better. And for me, it's a matter of finding the right mix. So that's challenging. But what frustrates me, though, is that what the algorithm doesn't do is put the thumbnail of my videos in front of my subscribers. So you will see some of them. If you watch me all the time, you see everything. But if you know, let's say I'm like, we're gonna have a bunch of mini PC reviews over the next couple of weeks. They're all out here. So if I start doing that, what'll happen is that people that are not interested in mini PCs will stop clicking on the thumbnails, and then YouTube will think that they're not interested in the channel, so they stop putting them up in front of people. And I've seen this in my analytics. So some people are like, oh, it does show it to everybody. Only if you go into the subscriber tab, but 80% of the public doesn't. They go onto the homepage. So if you look at your statistics, it actually tells you how many thumbnail impressions you get. And my thumbnail impressions are always significantly lower than my subscriber base, even over a period of 6 months. So for example, like that trip I did for the eclipse to my brother's place, you know, that one was like a very poorly performing video. I was disappointed with that because it was something a little different. And people like my brother, they sort of like me. You know what I mean? Like subscribers have seen that before. Nobody clicked on it. And I went in and looked. We're what? This was April, so now we're in July. So I don't know, what is that? 3 months, 4 months? Yeah, 3 months. 3 months, I've had maybe a little over 100,000 thumbnail impressions versus a subscriber base of 360,000 almost. So that's what it is. Yeah, it's living on the edge. Nothing bad happens if it falls off. Yeah, it depends. So I think the earlier generation Snapdragons do okay. But yeah, the current Snapdragon X does not currently have a working Linux distribution. At least not stable enough to test. But there are other versions that do, like Shane's running Linux on ARM, and it's great. Desktop and server. You get the right chip, you're good. And it runs great. Windows ARM runs great on the Mac. Oh, it's interesting. VirtualBox to host a Windows VM is a no-go. Because I've run, what was that UTM, which is like a, I forgot what's under the hood for that. But that I was able to boot Windows ARM up on that. Yeah, Apple got it right. They didn't move until everything worked well. And it's a lot of it's software. But remember, Apple controls everything. They control the hardware and the software, and the hardware all the way down to the chip level. Microsoft can make their own devices, but at the end of the day, they've got to work with other companies. But here, Apple owns everything. They make it all. But yeah, that's right now is just getting the drivers, and there's some kernel stuff that they're working on also. But it'll come around. Yes, I actually still have one of these phones. I've got an Asus phone that runs on an x86 chip. And for a while, you had Windows running on phones. They missed. I'll tell you, Microsoft really dropped the ball in that period of time. They had a lot of opportunity that they did not take advantage of. They've managed to come back. A lot of it, doing the cloud stuff. And Joe's running. Hey, how do you like the GNK tech? I think this thing's great. They didn't have to pay me to say that either. I think it's a great mini PC. But here's the thing. It doesn't perform any better than all these other ones I've got out here, except that Minutes Form one that's on the floor. So far, and we're back. That's the other thing. YouTube keeps promising me they're going to fix this, and they don't fix it. They never fix it. So yeah, two frames per second, but that's okay. It's the score that counts. And actually what we're doing right now is we're running the stress test. So that's what we're working on there. Hey, my friend Meatface on Amazon asks, is it suitable for watching Babylon 5? Yes, you can definitely watch Babylon 5 on here. And looks like I got it mostly right here. Oh, no, yeah. Uno, number one in Spanish. Nice. I'm the nice one. Got it. Uno nice. Perfect. Yeah, so if you watch me regularly, you will get notified. But if you don't, you won't, even if you're subscribed. And I see this myself. I may do another video about this because it's driving me crazy. I've set up an RSS reader to capture the YouTubers that I really enjoy watching. And more often than not, they fall off my home screen all the time because I don't watch them all right when they come out. So maybe I want to watch Metal Jesus. I'll watch on the weekends. He has videos that come out on Tuesday. If I don't click on it Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday after it's put it in front of me 3 times, it thinks I'm not interested in him anymore. But it's really just the timing. So yeah, it's annoying. And you know what? I'd rather, maybe it's just me, but I would rather see a thumbnail and decide not to watch it than have Google decide for me. That's what bothers me about it. Yeah, and that's exactly it. So I have a number of them like that, like Tech Minds for my radio stuff. He's a great YouTuber for ham radio equipment. Never see his stuff on the homepage, very rarely. And I've got to go and seek him out. Even like a big one like Technology, what's his name? Technology Creation. Why am I blanking on his name right here? What's his name? Gosh, why? See, now this is probably why YouTube will say, oh, see that? You don't remember his name. Like, I remember his name. Technology Connections. So his channel, the guy, he does awesome stuff. And there's like a certain time I like to watch his stuff, like around after everybody falls asleep on my TV before I go to bed. I'll watch a little Technology Connections. But I don't see it unless I go there. Like, it's never putting it in front of me. Or if it's putting it in front of me, it's when, that's kind of the thing. So in any event. All right, let's take a look here and see how we're doing. And yes, that's what I was thinking of. QEMU runs UMT. And I think I mentioned Joe earlier, so glad that's working out for you. Hey, I like that. Intelligent entertainment. I should borrow that. That's my motto. Intelligent entertainment. Note about Linux and ARM. WSL for Windows and kind of equivalent to Linux and Chrome OS. You can run visual apps. Ah, that's true. I haven't even thought about that. I should try that. Yes, right. So you can't run x86 Windows on, or x64 Windows on ARM. Yeah, you know what I want, Chris Allegretta, is I want to dock my iPhone and turn it into a Mac. I don't know if I would do that often, but that's what I would like to see. And you can relive the Windows 8 experience with the Square Home Launcher. Awesome. Check it out. Yeah, this is exactly it. Like, for whatever reason, it just stops showing it to you, even though you're a subscriber. Like, don't you... I was on a local radio show the other day. We were talking about this, and the host is like... Because, you know, if you're in traditional media, you know, numbers matter, right? How many subscribers? How big is the audience for this person? How many people have seen it? How many hits does your website get, right? And I mentioned to him, I said, yeah, you know, I've got all these subscribers, but, you know, this is, the reality is only like 20% actually see the thumbnail. And he's like, well, what's the point of subscribing then? I said, well, that's exactly it. Like, what's the point if you don't see it? And I will give YouTube credit because they do want you to find channels you haven't watched before. I think that's awesome. That's one of the strengths of the platform. But I think they have to balance it better. And I think, and I've mentioned this already in my other video, but I think what they could do better is they could give you better tools for sorting your subscription feed, because it's not consistent across platforms. So on the web, it's different than when it's on TV. It's different on the phone. And it's not even like different because of the platform. It's just different. Like, it doesn't have the same features. So I may reboot this the hard way, because this thing's been taking way too long to run through its thing there. So we have 7 more loops on this. And what it will do when it's done, what it's looking for in this test is not the performance so much as how much performance degradation we get after it gets through its last loop. But this little guy is like stuck. So I'm debating whether or not to just hit the power button here and see what happens. I think we'll just do that. I always hate doing this, but this update is stuck. Yeah, so they are apparently working on a desktop interface. And it would make sense. They got enough RAM on those things now. They could probably make it happen. Now remember that Android kind of runs in a container on Chrome OS now. Yeah, I'm not leaving. I'm gonna go down with the ship. So Matthew is asking, he's planning to buy an AUStar R1 to back up my movies and try it. I've never heard of the AUStar R1. I'm not sure what that is. There's all these weird brand names out there. I think it depends on, your level of, oh, I see what they, okay, that's that thing where you can put, all right, it's like a little NAS where you can load the hard drives in the top, a little toaster thing. It's powered by an N100, so it should do well either way. I have not tried Unraid yet. I've been not to name drop, but my friend Major Nelson, Larry Herb, who used to work for Microsoft, he is all in on Unraid. And I am like looking at what he showed me his screen and how, like, it looks awesome. So what I like about Unraid is that it dramatically simplifies Docker. So when you install Docker containers, it makes it incredibly easy to manage them, and the community actually configures them for you already. So from a Linux server standpoint, I would try Unraid, just because I think it's going to be less aggravating. But if you're not afraid of managing your own Linux distribution, then go the other route. It'll be cheaper. Here's a good question. I guess if you want to learn, so here's what it is. If you want to learn about tech and how it works, especially operating systems, a Mac isn't bad because you can install, a VM and boot things up that way. But I would say, I use a Mac for my daily driver. I use it because I like the M1. I like the efficiency of it. I have a bunch of apps on the Mac, like Final Cut Pro, that I use every single day, and a couple other apps that are unique to the Mac also. And I like the Apple ecosystem. I like how it works with my phone and everything else. But because these mini PCs are so cheap, I have a Mac, 2 Macs, and I have like a million of these. So, like for example, this little guy is like my new experiment machine. I can load up Ubuntu. I could put Proxmox on here probably and run a bunch of virtual Linux servers. So I would say it's no longer a binary choice where you have to pick one over the other. These little guys are so inexpensive that you can buy a more expensive PC for your daily driver and then use one of these for your hobbies and experiments. That's what I would do. All right, so I got time maybe to do a couple of tests on this little guy, and then I got a jet. But why don't we grab Chrome. I will say the fan on the little guy is pretty noisy. And tonight, by the way, we've got a review of a HP laser printer. That's one of the least expensive laser printers on the market. And Chris Allegretta loves Proxmox. There's so much good stuff right now in open source. It's amazing, like how good everything is. But yeah, I would pick the PC that you want to use day to day, and then get something like these, because they are really good. I mean, it's amazing. Like when you think about, like we saw the Raspberry Pis, like you bought the Raspberry Pi for $35. By the time you got all the stuff, the monitor, the keyboard, you were into it for maybe $100, maybe a little bit more. Now the Raspberry Pi fully decked out costs as much as this does, and you have far more options for how to use it, and a lot more memory. So I'm really digging the N100s. Intel's done something pretty amazing with these chips. Like they are really, really good. And they were good before, but now they're really good. And Poorly Buffalo says Windows plus. Yes, WSL is what is Linux on top of Windows? Is that right? I got to really play around with that because I haven't done as much with that as I should. This question comes up a lot. I'm not going to give you a definitive yes, it is safe, but I will say that I have not found anything that I'm concerned about. So when I tested this, I ran 3 different malware virus scanners on it. It all came up clean. It is as clean of a Windows install as you'll find, and it's Windows 11 Pro. And that's been the case with all of these. So if you want the peace of mind, you can, of course, install it fresh. The other thing I like about this is that you have 2 drive slots. So I have you have to buy the mSATA, but I put an mSATA in here, and I've got Ubuntu on that and Windows on the other one, which is pretty cool. So the Mini Book X, I should find what that is. Is that a Chuwi, Henry? Another Chuwi? I think somebody else was mentioning that earlier. Trigger says, I'm a very open-ended when it comes to my computers. He's talking on Amazon. Whatever floats your boat. That's my whole life motto. I don't care what anybody else decides. I'll just help you make your decision. Oops, I had the wrong thing in here. Browserbench.org. Oh, no. Get out of there. Typed the wrong address in. Browserbench speedometer. So we're going to run the speedometer test on this little guy. Now this one I expect to not perform as well as the other ones because this does not have the same processor. So this one has the N97, which is not as quick. So my understanding with these licenses is that they have like this bulk OEM license, and I think the way they're applying the licenses is not kosher, but Microsoft doesn't seem to be doing anything about it. because they all have Windows 11 Pro. Even this guy has a Windows 11 Pro on it. I will check his video out because I like his stuff. By the way, another channel I'm subscribed to, I never see his videos, ever. Flood of Sins is here. Hello there. Hello, Amda Brown. Yeah, I may pick this up in the morning. We'll see. I've got this project took more to set up than I anticipated. That's right. As long as you're here, it's all that matters. I'm not going to be here for long because I got a jet. If this was not we're having dinner with my dad tonight. If this was not that, I'd stay longer and get more of this done. All right. So this is the GMK Tech. Which one is this thing called? This is the N97 from GMK Tech. This one actually did better than I thought. It got 10.2 versus 11.9 on the other one. And I suspect we'll run the other benchmark on it in a second here. This actually did as well as the i3 N305 on the HP Chromebook Plus 14 I looked at recently. Got the exact same score. But this test is harder because it's more of a browser-based thing as opposed to really working the graphics hardware and stuff. So there we go. Good news is that this Fanless PC got a 99.8%. That's great. And we'll look at the, let me just pull up the stress test here real quick. So if you go to Lon.TV/benchmarks, you can see where I'm putting all this information into. But I have about 10 years worth of data of these tests running on the exact same machines. All right, so the Melee PCO2, Intel N100, 99.8%. And the temperature on this one, I've got to swap my thing back here. Yeah, the switch box that I bought that did not work, so I'm manually moving my mouse thing back and forth. The temperature on this one came in at 66 degrees. So the highest reading I had was 71. Looks like I must have, I'm back. So at the conclusion of the test, we were running at about 65. And let's see, 65 C to F is 149 degrees Fahrenheit. So Trigger wants to know, is there any limitation to the power or to the number of peripherals that can be attached to these? It's going to vary based on the computer. Technically, no. If you have a high power drawing peripheral, I would probably hook it up to a powered hub, just like I would suggest on any computer. So generally, they should be able to hold up fairly well with multiple peripherals. I've not had any big issues. But I usually only attach like a hard drive and a keyboard to it, so I've never really pushed it beyond that. All right, so now we're going to run the Steam stuff on here. And this little guy does not have any USB-C ports, so we have to switch our cable around here. Here. And it's got to install Steam real quick, and we'll run that test real quick and see how it does. And then I'm going to have to run after that. So I didn't get to everything I wanted to get done today, but we got some stuff started, which is good. It's better to start than not start. Honestly, one of the things, what takes the most amount of time on these things is the updating. Yes, I will be here. I'm trying my best to find a way to keep us going here. Any update on the ATSC3 DRM? Not at the moment, and that's the problem. Like, I almost need to do a video on the fact that there hasn't been any update. Because all this stuff they promised about things working is turned out to be not the case. Like it's just not working. All right, so let's go in here, install that. So to install Windows 11 fresh, what I would do is go to the Microsoft homepage, get the, installation creation tool thing, and get out your USB stick and do it yourself. And you may have to find some drivers. I think generally these are all pretty well supported inside of Windows by default, but you might want to go to Intel and get some of the graphics drivers and stuff. There might be a few drivers for network cards. It's going to depend on what the individual configuration is on each. So some of these have Intel Ethernet controllers, some have other MediaTek, whatever. So I found generally they're pretty well supported, even on the Linux side. Henry would buy a laptop over a mini PC. That's true. I mean, you do get that. That is actually a benefit. And what I learned the hard way, well, I've known this over time, but one of the problems with UPSs, the uninterruptible power supplies, is that the batteries on them fail, and you don't always get warned about it. So, for example, I was recording a video, the video that I just put up recently, as a matter of fact, the one that I just did. What's going on here? I'm trying to log into my Steam account. The one that I just did, unfortunately, as I was recording, I guess a tree came down somewhere on the other end of town and knocked power out. And my UPS, which had been working fine, the last time we had a glitch or whatever, but when the load hit it with my production machine here running, it was overwhelmed and it shut down. And then my generator kicked on, but then the UPS had no power left in it, because you have to have enough in the battery to even use it, and it just was totally dead. And I never got any warning about its battery failing. So you got to really keep track of it. Like every 3 years or so, just swap the batteries out, whether it needs it or not, because that's what happened to me. It took about I had to wait a little. I should ended up plugging directly into the outlet. But when my generator switches back over, there's a risk there too. So thank you, Yusef. I'm all about chill. Everyone's just got to take it easy. Everything's going to be fine, right? Yeah, I've been saying I think Apple should have, like, your phone should become a Mac when you dock it. I think that would be awesome. Like the fact that the iPad is the same thing as the MacBook Air, yet you can't run Mac OS on it. It's crazy. All right, so we're going to do one more set of tests here, and then I got to run. Maybe I'll come back in the morning and finish this up. So I got some stuff done here. I got less than I wanted to, but more than I was expecting. I've been really having a hard time getting enough time to get everything in. That's been another part of my problem here too. Okay, let's go to the library. All right, so we're going to launch this now. So it looks like only the Pixel 8 phones have that HDMI output capability. I am not monitoring, but they generally all come in around the same. I will do that for the review. It's very little. Especially when they're idle, they consume next to nothing, like 6-7 watts, if that. Like they are really low consumers. Yeah, no, it's crazy. Like if you don't have, and my Synology NAS back there is on one that's a couple years old, and I have so many UPSs around the house, I forget when I got them. You got to really keep a log of like when you put them in place, because the batteries go, and a lot of times they don't tell you. So I generally use the APC ones, which do beep at you. But I was on which one's this? This is a CyberPower. Battery was gone and it didn't know it. Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot more Linux you know, if I'm worried about Windows 10 going EOL because people are not replacing their PCs as much as they used to. So I have no trips planned for Phoenix, Arizona. I would love to visit Arizona. I've never been. So maybe some conference or something can invite me and I'll come out. So max RAM on these, I think, is 16 gigabytes. I think that's what the GMK Tech is maxed out at. Let me look that up real quick. And they're all single. Every one of them I've reviewed has been single channel. So you got to get a single module. So Intel says the max is 16, but there are apparently some mini PCs out there that support more. And they're all single channel. So just imagine what kind of performance we could be getting out of these if they open the throttle a bit. I think they did a better job on these chips than they thought they would. That's probably what happened. So John on Amazon says, I've watched you for years, and I don't even know if you appear on my homepage on YouTube because as long as I can remember, I've gone to my subscriber page instead. Yeah, so what's interesting about what John's talking about, and that's what YouTube will say, oh, well, we have a subscriber page. People go to that. But the subscriber page is only about 20% of my overall viewership. And I would bet you that 20% is actually a bigger, like a higher number than what most channels get. Because like the technically inclined people, like people who watch me, you know to do that. My problem is that I'm subscribed to so many channels that I need a way to better sort it. Because I'm not always in the mood to watch whatever's in front of me. I have like things that I like to watch at certain times of day. I'm a weird creature of habit in that way. All right, so we're going to run the Time Spy benchmark on this little guy. Right now we're on this one here. And we'll see how this runs. And then we gotta call it. I will be around for Prime Day though. Oof. So Ecto Munkle had a lead acid. Yeah, most of them were lead acid batteries too. Nearly caught fire. Actually, the Cyber Power, my original one that I had, and the one I had before this one, I had to return it for warranty service because the battery was bulging on it. It was like the casing was coming out. I thought for sure it was going to explode. What model Chuwi is it? I've got it on the Amazon link there if you click on it. This is a free book. It's the Chuwi free book. And if you go through the link, the one that's on the page there is the one I've got here. I didn't get as much done with it as I would like, but we will have more coming soon. Yes, it looks like 32 gigabytes is what you can get on the Max for that, which is amazing, right? Hey, Travis, you're on vacation, not at work. Awesome. Hope you're doing well. Yeah, I am always on the clock around here. All right, so we're going to let this run. And we'll see what we get here for a score. So again, we're running the tests on this little guy. So this one has the N97 processor, which should be a step below the N100 in this one, and this one. But anecdotally, watching it, it's actually doing fairly close to the performance I'm seeing on those. So we will see. Yes, Prime Day. So I'll be doing, apparently I'm going to be like on one of their electronics homepage things on the 17th. So if you follow me on Amazon, check it out. That's a good idea. Maybe I will do some kind of use case. I have a lot of use cases for these things. I have one over there, an older one that I use for my ham radio stuff. So on this one, it's not upgradable. But on this one, you just yank it out and put another one in. But it's only got a single channel, so you have to get, this has got a 16 gig module. So I guess if you put a 32 in there, it might work. So which laptops did you get based on my suggestion? I'm curious. Yeah, they don't make it easy. By the way, they don't make it easy to prune your subscriber count either. So what I'm finding is that when I upload a video, I usually lose a couple of subscribers for whatever reason. And that's pretty normal, actually. Like, you lose subscribers on an upload. And yes, the risk is, so here's the risk, and maybe this is why YouTube doesn't do it. If there was a place in which you would see every thumbnail, presumably people would unsubscribe more because they decide they're just not into you anymore, right? So, but you know what? Like, I'd rather my subscriber number reflect the actual interest in what I do as a metric versus just have it be kind of artificial. Like, if I've got 360,000 subscribers, but only 120,000 are actually interested in what I do, do I need to have that number that large? So that's a good question. But my whole point is, I think there needs to be a means in which, however they want to do it, that the thumbnail gets put in front of the subscriber at a time in which they want to see it, that it's not just some fire hose. So, and I want to point out too, by the way, single channel is not as big of a deal on these as it used to be. So they would perform better if they were dual channel, for sure. However, the single channel performance out of these is already better than the dual channel performance out of the prior generation of these chips. Jesse wants to know, why are we running on such a slow PC? Well, for gaming it's slow, but for a lot of other stuff it's actually very adequate. In fact, these things make killer Plex servers. All right, the moment of truth. What's the score? What? 487? See, now this is what happens. Like, you get into these weird results. So for some reason, this one did better than the other N100 ones did. What's up with that? I wonder if this has got dual channel memory, maybe? I don't know. This one has outscored every single N100 I've reviewed so far on this test. That does not make sense to me. And not by a small amount either. That is crazy. I'm gonna have to dig into that a little bit. We got to figure out why. So this, on that graphics test, outperformed this and this. And the only thing I can think of that would allow it to do that I got to dig into that one a bit. So 487, it got almost a frame per second, not quite, but almost there, almost a frame per second faster. That's crazy. So let's take a look at something real quick here. Let me reboot this. Like, this is running as well as like a single channel Ryzen 4500. Oh, not quite, but close. I just want to pop into the BIOS real quick and see if it tells us how the memory is configured. Because that's weird. And then I got to run. So it is not raining today. It's actually a beautiful day. But I'm so far behind on getting these PCs working that All right, so if you click on the link in the video description, it'll take you to this stream happening right now on Amazon. There should be a follow button there that you can follow me at. So many people ask me about jellyfin. I have not tried it, and I don't think it would be fair to anyone for me to really review it, given how much of because of the Plex sponsorship. I can't win on that because anything that I'm critical of, right? So at some point I'll look at it, but Plex. Honestly, Plex. I use Plex. I am a Plex user. Oh, this is a pretty cool BIOS too. So I use Plex every single day, and I have not found reason to switch. And there's some things that jellyfin might do a little better. There's some things that Plex does better. So I will look at it, but not immediately here. Now this guy has 12 gigs of RAM. Maybe the RAM is faster? It doesn't say how it's configured. The memory frequency is 4,800 megahertz. Maybe it's got DDR5 RAM in it. Let's take a look at the... Let me boot up... I'm going to switch over to this one real quick. And let's take a look at its BIOS and see what it has on its screen. I realize how clunky this is to have to keep moving my dongle back and forth, and I really have to go in a minute. But now I'm curious. Is it memory speed? Is it dual channel? And CPU-Z, I'll check that out. Because now we've got a mystery to solve. Like, why is this so much faster than these other two with seemingly a less powerful processor? That is the question. It put itself to sleep here. Let's wake it back up. All right, so I'm going to reboot it here. Yeah, there's a couple things I'd like to see Plex add. I'd like, probably a better audiobook support. I think ebooks would be great, right? Okay, so now this is, oh yeah, so the memory frequency on this is 3,200 megahertz. Here, I'll pull it up on screen for you here. I can actually give you, I can go back and forth. So this is this one. And then we've got this is this one. So the blue one is the N97 one. So it is running It also says this N97 is running at 2 gigahertz versus 800 megahertz on the Intel, but I think that just might be where it's at the moment. But the memory speed on this is faster, which is probably why it's running the way it is. The question is this DDR5 or not? This one, I can tell you just by pulling the cover off of it. This doesn't say what it is. I have to look at the model number for the RAM. Yeah, let's try CPU-Z real quick and see what we get. Let me turn it off here. It's kind of handy having the video switcher here to just be able to quickly jump back and forth between the two. Because if I have them plugged into my other hardware, it's got to renegotiate every time. The switching is not as quick, whereas this thing kind of maintains it. So I've got my Blackmagic ATEM here. All right, so we'll try CPU-Z and see what... This might be a little hot rod, this guy. Yeah, Andy, it did. It actually scored better. Andy was commenting on Amazon about the score. It got about 100 points more than the N100s did. So I'm guessing it's probably memory speed related. And maybe we'll grab CPU-Z and see what it says. So bottom line is I was expecting this one to be the least performing machine in the mix, but it's right now performing better than the other two. And it's smaller. but you can't upgrade it. So that's the one downside. We got to be careful downloading CPU-Z because they have all those crazy fake ads. See that download now? Like, look at this. And this is insane. That's why I run ad blockers, because this is the crap that gets malware on your computer. I don't want to take a survey. I just want to use my computer. I don't want all this crap popping up on here. All right, so if we go to zip English, I don't want a server. Yeah, this is why I install ad blockers. Look, this is insane. Look at this. This is also how like malware gets on your computer, because these ads just deliver garbage to your browser, and if you don't have the browser updated, you're screwed. All right, so let's do a quick install here. And then I got to run. All right, so let's take a look at CPU-Z. All right, so let's go to memory. Doesn't tell us much. It said I have 12 gigabytes. Yeah, it's not giving me much here. I don't even know how many memory channels I have. Okay, this does have DDR5 RAM, so I think that's part of it. And it kind of insinuates that it has 4 slots, each with 3 gigabytes. So that's interesting, isn't it? I should run this on the other one and see what it has. But there's some interesting things happening inside of this. So I think, as far as priorities are concerned, I'll probably focus on this one next, because there's some performance underneath the hood here that is surprising me for its very simple exterior. And it might be that it's got dual channel faster DDR5 RAM. I don't know if dual channel works on these ends. That's what I mean. I got to dig into this a little bit more. And I will get back to you all. All right, so I got some homework to do, and I've got plenty of work to do tomorrow. So and tomorrow's the holiday, isn't it? So I got a little bit of time. A little bit of time there. So, all right. Well, I got to run, but I appreciate you all sticking with me here as I've been experimenting with trying to do 4 things at once. It actually worked out okay, I think, and I am in the process of selling this Blackmagic ATEM, because I don't need this many. I bought this to review it, and then I was like, well, I had another one which I sold. I think one of our frequent chatters bought it. But I've not been using this all that often because I don't need this many inputs. So I'm going to sell this one and get the mid-range one with only 4. Yeah, all these CPUs support QuickSync, so these would all work really well as Plex servers. And in fact, this one here, I like this one a lot because it's upgradable, the G3. You can click on the link and find it in the Amazon chat. But this one actually is performing better than the other 2, and I think it's because of its memory speed and potentially running more than one channel. We'll dive into that as we get a little further into things here. So good stuff. But I have to run. So I will see you all very soon. I'll be doing more of these streams because my schedule is starting to get a little more manageable. So be on the lookout for future stuff. And definitely follow me on Amazon, especially if you plan on shopping on Prime Day, because I will be doing a live stream here on YouTube, but also on Amazon for Prime Day. And I think I'm going to be put somewhere on the app. So be on the lookout. And yeah, that'll be it. So I hope to see you all in the very near future. And until then, catch you next time. Bye-bye.